Hey everybody, welcome back to The Practice.
Woohoo!
And we are here, hey everybody, welcome back to The Practice.
Woo!
Wow.
That
Woo. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Practice. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Practice.
Yay!
We're glad that you're with us today. We are having a hard time composing ourselves.
We keep cracking up.
Keep cracking up. But anyhow, we're glad that you're with us. So, it's definitely a strange season that we're in right now.
It is
January
that.
2022 is unexpected and a lot of unexpected things. But the last 2 years have been unexpected,
That's
and
right.
we have all figured out how to navigate it. So we're navigating it. You just kind of close your eyes and you just start walking, and we're gonna
right.
figure it out. So
The cool word is pivot.
that's not a
We're
cool
gonna
word.
pivot.
That is not a cool word. That was cool 2 years ago. But it's not cool anymore. That's
Oh,
embarrassing,
dear
honey.
me. Okay.
So we're not going to pivot. We're just going to try to
gonna
navigate.
pivot.
We're going to navigate. So anyhow, we are.
An older word.
It is kind of older. All right, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, so anyhow, what we're trying to do as a church right now is we're talking about this concept of belonging. And we're going to spend several months about the concept of belonging to God, belonging to one another, belonging to a church family. But as we've gotten into that, we've wanted to have these companion pieces or these practices that you can do within your groups to kind of help the message go deeper. And we've been talking about having identity groups because we believe that, rather than getting together in a group and saying, here's what's wrong with you, or here's what you need to work on, or talking about our weaknesses, we wanted to try to develop kind of, a healthy companion piece to that, balance that out, if you would, to where when we get together in our groups, what we're actually doing is reminding one another. Your identity is that of a beloved child of God. And God loves you, and He has created you in an amazing way, and you are being conformed to the likeness of His Son. And you may not be there yet, you may have some pieces that are unfinished, but God is working on you, and it is beautiful, and you're awesome.
Yes.
And so that's kind of been our message for the last few weeks. So we had a practice that we did 2 weeks ago that we gave you to do within your groups where, we wanted to take 3 minutes on each person and just focus on and think about what are the character qualities of God that we see in you, and then to be able to share that with each person, which was really cool.
And then the second part of that was that hopefully you could take those things that you wrote down, that you heard, and you could spend a little time in your quiet time every day reading over them and then praying that God would show you how those are true about you and speak to you in a personal way about just some of the things that you saw from the list.
Right. It was we had a great time in our group doing that. And I just felt like it was really profound, really significant for us just to be able to have those conversations with each other. And so this week we wanted to take kind of the next step in that, which is to continue thinking about this a little bit. We don't want to move on too fast, because sometimes you can move on so fast from something that you lose the benefit of it. And so we wanted to take a little bit of time this week and really, kind of go deeper with that. So here's what we're going to do.
So we're going to actually do two things this week. So this is just the first little section of your group time together. But what we want you to do is we want you to take the time to write and examine yet another spiritual word.
It's a spiritual practice, an ancient spiritual practice.
Okay, so an examine is basically just when you examine something a little bit more closely. And so we've come up with these 3 questions that we're going to leave you with. We're going to put them on the screen. And if you, hopefully if you watch this before you get together with your group, you can go ahead and answer these questions. But if some people haven't had a chance, then you can answer them in the, you can take about 3 to 5 minutes out of your group time for everybody to write down their answers to this.
Okay.
But then after that, we want each person to have a little time to share what their answers were with everybody else. We don't want it to get too long. And so this actually might be a time to set your timer on your phone and give every person just about 3 minutes, and not to be legalistic or make it weird, but just because we have other things we want to get to in this D group time, and this is an actual reality of life, that not everybody can stay for hours, especially if you have small children and you're trying to get back to your life and all that. So we want to make sure that we provide something for you that actually fits in the time frame. So trying to help you along there. But we want everybody to be able to share just for about 3 minutes what your answers were to those questions.
Right. So here's the questions. You can pause and take a screenshot, or you can write them down in your journal, and then you can get into it with your group. And then we're going to tell you what's coming next. Okay, so, the good thing about doing something like this and writing down the answers to those questions and sharing it with one another is that you do get to learn a lot about the people in your group. You learn about the way that they think, about the way that they process. You learn some important things, just kind of about how they are dealing with their relationship with God at the moment and what's going on with them. Which is really a great thing to know. In our service on Sunday with our small group, it was super profound as all of us were just talking about, these things that were coming up in our minds and reflecting on our relationship with God. And I was even taking notes on, just some of the people in my group and things that they, that helped me to understand them better. So I really hope that this is going to be helpful for building some great community and great relationships within your group. So that leads us to this next practice that we want to encourage you to do this week in your group, and which is thinking about how to really kind of carry one another's burdens. And so if we go over to Galatians chapter 6 in verse 2, it says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." And this is something that I wanted us to spend a little bit of time on this week in our groups, is this idea of carrying one another's burdens. Now, I think it's interesting that he says, in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. And we know that the law, kind of the new commandment that Jesus gave, was to love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. This is the message of kingdom living that Jesus came to give to us. And so the way to fulfill that relational love that we have for one another, here's one way to do that, is to carry one another's burdens. Now, carrying one another's burdens is different from what it says a little bit further in this chapter, where it says each one should carry their own load. So each of us is responsible for dealing with our own life. God has given you something for you to deal with. God has given you something specific that he is calling for you to go through right now. But then at the same time, we all are going through life with a specific burden that we have, something that is going on. And he's given us this direction to carry one another's burdens. And so I think for me, it's helpful for me to think about this like, okay, when I'm carrying someone else's burden, I'm doing everything I can to kind of share that load with them, or to lift them up in a way. I'm not coming in and fixing their problem. I'm not coming in and giving them advice and saying you should do this. I'm coming in to provide support for that person as they are dealing with the issue that they have in their life. Which is different.
No, it is different. And I will just say, I will confess that I think this has been a significant shift for me in my head, is that I am a fixer. I mean, I'm always looking for someone, something, someone,
Right.
some program, some whatever to fix me. You know, like that's the truth. I want fixing. But I actually think that sometimes when I've been in groups, I will feel this burden to help someone fix their problem. It's not necessarily that I'm trying to, tell them what to do or be controlling. It's just that I'm like, my heart hurts for them that they're in. So what do I do? Okay, let's figure out how to fix it and make it better,
Right.
And then it's only recently that I've been able to retrain myself to go, no, just connect with them. Empathize. And lots of times I am very empathetic inside. It's just I move into action really fast.
Right.
It's like, and I take it for granted that they feel my empathy, or that they feel that, that I'm with them. So because I do feel that inside, I just express it differently. So it's just been a good practice for me to get into, to remember that, a lot of times we just need someone else to know the burden we're carrying.
Right.
It's not that they can really even do anything. It's been significant for me that sometimes, I realize we do have some specific burdens in our life.
Right.
That sometimes when I'm sharing them with someone, I can tell by the look on their face that this is intense for them. And, I forget, and I'm like, oh yeah, this would be weird. And I have to tell them, but I'm not looking for you to fix it.
Right.
It's okay. Please don't take it on. And I don't want to burden you by my burden. But this is what is going on with me. It's sort of that, that LOTR reference we always have to make. The
Lord of the Rings.
That's
There's
right.
so many lessons in Lord of the Rings.
So there's this one point where, Frodo is carrying the ring and it's very, very heavy because he has this burden, right? And Sam just wants to help him. And he's like, because he sees that it's tearing him up and he wants to help him. What can I do? And he begs him. He goes, just let me carry the ring for a little while. Let me share the load is actually what he says. But Frodo knows he can't give him that ring because it's Frodo's job. It's his job. Right. And so, it's this tension, but later on, and you'll see, that would be a spoiler if someone hasn't actually watched the movie.
They deserve it to have it spoiled.
Okay, so later on, then Sam goes, well, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. And he ends up actually carrying Frodo the last few steps to get him to the finish line. But I picture that about it in our groups. Is that sometimes we just need people to know this is a burden that I'm going through. I'm not asking you to fix it, but it's nice for other people to be aware of. Right. And I will say that for me, when I can hear the burdens that other people are carrying, I go, oh yeah. It's not that I didn't even know. Right. Sometimes I already know because you can think, well, these people already know me. Sometimes I do already know, but I forget. Right. And in the midst of all of my stuff, I can start to think that my stuff is all the stuff. It's like everybody else is having this really easy life out there. Right. I'm the only one, something like that. Or you can just need to be reminded, oh, I forgot. That must be hard. Yeah. And then, my mode of operation from there really is to remember and pray for them. Right. That's how I bear it. Right. That's how we do that.
So here's what we want to try to do in our identity groups this week. Or next week, if that's when you're doing it, is just take a few moments and have everybody in the group share, this is a burden that I am carrying this week, or this is something that is heavy on me right now. This is something that I'm wrestling with, that I'm dealing with. And write it down. Make a note in your phone or in your journal that you can write down the burden that everyone wants to share that they're carrying. And just share one, because many of us have more than one. That's right. But we can look at that and go, okay, this is what people are dealing with, and it helps you to know them. It helps you to pray for them, and then God might, inspire you to be actually able to come along and serve them in some way, which is helping them to carry that burden. But you can pray about that and see what, just see what God puts on your heart. But at least us walking through life, acknowledging and knowing this is what my brothers and sisters are going through, I think is really going to be helpful for us. So this is kind of the next step. We're trying to identify, remind one another of our identity. You are a child of God. God is working on you, and there's so many great things about you as He is helping you to become like Jesus. And then to share with one another, here is the burden that I'm carrying with me this week, so that we can come alongside one another and maybe in some way help to carry those burdens. You're not trying to fix it. Also, one last thing, don't compare your burden with somebody else's.
Good one.
It is not a competition. At certain points, people might be going through something that feels really traumatic. You might be going through the loss of a parent or a loved one, or a serious health issue, cancer diagnosis, something like that. And then someone that is just having a burden of, I'm really having a hard time at my job and I don't like my boss. They can feel like, well, I shouldn't say that because it's not as bad. Whatever burden that you are carrying this week, that is your burden. And so don't judge somebody else's burden. Don't compare with somebody else's burden. It's not a competition. Just share, this is the burden that I'm going through this week. Next week, it might be something way worse, or it might not be something as bad, but that I just want to get us out of judging it like that. Whatever we're in right now, this is what I want to share with the people around me. And then we're going through life together. So hopefully this practice, these two things that we have kind of talked you through today are going to help you grow together and help us to be the church that God really wants us to be. So, all right, look forward to seeing you next week.